think we'll get started. We'll let everyone trickle in during this intro bit. But welcome. Oh, let's start my video. Welcome everyone to AER Live, our series of online interactive workshops from Applied Ecology Resources. My name is Minyuk Seo. I'm the Senior Assistant Editor here at the British Ecological Society, and I'm delighted you have all joined us today for this much anticipated workshop. So we'd like to first thank today's sponsor, Wildlife Acoustics, for the relaxing nature soundscapes you heard as you waited for the workshop to begin. Wildlife Acoustics is the leading provider of bioacoustic monitoring tools and technology for biologists, researchers, and government agencies worldwide. You can learn more about their product and offerings and applications at wildlifeacoustics.com. This month's AER Spotlight is on Natural England's latest report, Gene Pools, Investigating the Life That Dwells in Garden Ponds. Published in May this year, the report comprehensively summarizes the outcomes of the pilot Gene Pools project, a collaborative project between some of the UK governing bodies, agencies, and the Natural History Museum as part of the Natural Capital and Ecosystem Assessment Programme. Citizen scientists across the country were engaged to take water samples from gardens and community ponds, which were then analysed using the latest DNA metabarcoding techniques to measure biodiversity within urban ponds. The work presented in this report demonstrates that sampling by citizen scientists can be combined with cutting-edge technologies to better understand the value and importance of urban ecosystems. We're delighted that Natural England and other agencies under the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs here in the UK are able to share their latest work with the global community through DEFRA's AER membership. The report is freely available for everyone to read, download and share on AER's website. Visit appliedecologyresources.org/membership to find out more about how an AER membership can benefit you and what we can do for you and your organization. So finally, I'll shortly hand over to our speaker for today's workshop. But before I do, please note a few housekeeping rules. The workshop will be recorded and posted online, so please keep your camera and audio off at all times unless asked otherwise. Please send in any questions or comments for the speaker via the Zoom chat, and we will share these during the Q&A section of the workshop. And the AER team is also on hand to address any technical issues if you share them via the chat. Without waiting any longer, let me introduce Dário Hipólito for his workshop, Working People While Working Wolves, Managing Conflicts Towards Coexistence. Over to you, Dário.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Min. I'll share my screen. Can everybody see it? Please say something in chat if you don't. Okay, so today I will be talking a little bit about part of my PhD, and by working with wolves, I need to work with people. And basically what I spend most of my time in my PhD is by working people while I'm working on wolves. And that's why this came out. So just a little bit introduction about the wolf part for those who are not familiar with it. So where are wolves coming from, right? That is one of the questions that people ask. And I say they were always here. They were just roaming around, and now they are expanding, as we can see here on these two maps. This one from 2010 on the left, and the most recent one between 2012 and 2016, where we can see all over Central Europe wolves are showing up. Now even here on the west part of France they are showing up, although there are still some areas where a situation it's not improving and it's even getting worse, like for example the south of the Iberian Peninsula, where this population here was considered extinct, and the situation also in Portugal is not quite famous. So we have two scenarios, right? The lovely wolf and the more fearless one. And we can divide this in two things. The conservation one, when we were trying to boost the recovery of wolves throughout Europe, and that just happened, I believe, maybe faster than everybody expected. And the conflict management that we were still dealing with in some of areas, and we still need to deal with that. And these have two different things. So on conservation, we need to deal with threats. We focus on population viability, population connectivity, and the recovery of the population. And when we deal with conflict management, our focus usually on research is on the livestock damages, preventive measures, compensation schemes, and trying to build some kind of coexistence where everyone can live in the same area. So I have one question for everyone, for the audience, is these different scenarios can have the same approach when we are dealing with people. And I will give some time, 1 minute maybe, I will leave it's enough for everyone to answer. Okay, so I believe you can see there is a majority of people that believe we can have the same approach, and a minority that believes we cannot. And now I'll have a second question. I believe you just a moment, sharing, and okay. So what should be the main aspect of this approach? Even I know that, so the vast majority of you chosen just one. For those that believe there should be more than one, please specify what do you think can be the most important for you. Okay. I'll share the results. I believe everyone can see it. So we have a majority of people that believe the main aspect should be listen to locals, and then talk with local authorities and organize meetings. Interesting that no one choose the spread information through leaflets, which is something that it was quite common in the past and still in our days. It's something that is positively evaluated as a measure to be implemented. It's to create leaflets and to spread information, and also talk with government bodies. I can guess why nobody choose this. First, because it's hard to reach these government bodies, and also because maybe we all believe that after nothing goes on. So I'm the opinion, I follow the majority of people, I believe. Yeah. So it can be just one approach. It's to build a relationship by listening to people. And if we look this as an engine that doesn't work just with one single wheel, this is the most important one, but we can have a second one helping, that is to maintain this connection with locals and also to be persistent with this connection. Okay, so I believe this is the way to build a relationship and to approach both of these scenarios, by listening, by maintaining the connection with locals, and by being persistent with the message. Of course, if we know new information, we can change what we say, but if we don't have good information, we should be persistent in our message. So by dealing from recovery to coexistence, I really like this image from Lopes Bau et al. From 2017, that in Europe, we started to have the dilemma. So what should be our approach? It's to do a separation. So wildlife will be in one side, humans will be in the other, and we'll avoid coexistence. And this will give us a smaller abundance of large carnivores, or should we go to the sharing space approach, and we will have a larger abundance of large carnivores? Well, I believe everyone agree that sharing would be the step to take, and we are working on that. And with this, we have this idea of coexistence that came out. So everyone needs to share the space, wildlife and humans. And with this coexistence, I believe that there are these 4 levels of coexistence. We have the exclusion, where people just don't want wildlife and large carnivores and wolves in their surroundings, and they persecute them and kill them. We have the so-called weak coexistence, that we have like urban areas really liking wolves, but they don't deal with them directly. And then we have just more rural communities that need to deal with it, and there is some kind of separation that they would like to have. And then we have the strong coexistence that is helped by laws, that it's what we have now. And most at the end, it will come with the recovery that we see in Europe. So, but most of all, I believe that understand where we are, it's the most important thing, and we should do it by listening to people, okay? So, but there are some things that we should do before going to the field, going to these local communities and talk to them. So here we can see a small village in Portugal that is between mountain valleys. People here, they believe they are forgotten, that nobody cares about them. So I believe it's important before going to the field, we should know the area, okay, should go around, see where each village is, what, how the community lives, okay, understand everything, know what they do, what is their way of living economically, what are their routines, and understand the attitudes of the community. If we can have that information from previous projects, or just by talking from people from one village, talking about other places, and you will see, they will give you information. Oh, people there, they will hate wolves, they don't care anything about wolves. It's what's happening here in this small village in Portugal. They hate wolves, they don't care at all about wolves. The only if you go there and you talk about wolves, they will give you a bad face and they will not want to talk with you. So how can we build this relationship, as I was saying? So listening, and I believe the majority of us agree with this, is the most important aspect when dealing with people. So we should not refuse an invitation. When we see someone in the field and we start talking with them, and they invited us to come to their village, to come to the coffee shop, or to the bar and have a small talk, we should not refuse that. It can be really a start of everything. Another aspect of this listening is sometimes we believe we are losing our time, especially when we see the same people when we go to the field and we already listen to their stories, and they are talking the same story all over again. But I believe it's important to go and say hi and just listen to the story. You know the story, that's okay. Be interested anyway. It's hard sometimes. Also, be kind and maintain the connection, okay? By maintaining the connection, we will build the trust of those people in us. And this just comes with time. It's not possible to gain trust of people fast, especially these ones that, as I showed before, are really living in remote places with it's hard to get to them. So it's important to maintain the connection. We should show up regularly to these villages and try to, even if people don't want to talk with you, show up there, be present, okay? And if you can have the contact of these people, I believe it's important to call them often. If you cannot go there, just give them a call and say, hi, how are you? How are things going? If you are you having any problems with wolves? Are you seeing wolves around? Do you know anything from the surrounding villages? Are they having problems? And by showing interest and by calling, you build this trust that is important for this relationship. And the third point, and I believe it's really important, we should be persistent with our message, and also without attacking their knowledge. They are there for a long time. They need to deal with wolves. Yes, there are a lot of myths, but we should not clearly say, oh, you're lying, that's a lie, that's not it. No, if you do that, they will look at you like, oh, you come from urban areas, you don't know what are you talking about? I'm the one that lives here that needs to deal with this problem. Even if you have plenty of knowledge about their situation, they will feel attacked, and the relationship can really break and tear apart. So I believe our speech should be consistent through time. We should not say one thing one time and a different one in the next one if we don't have new information. If you have new information, you should say, look, now I'm saying this because I got some new information from, I don't know, from camera traps, from genetics, from, I know that wolves are more around because your neighbor called me and told me that and there were some sheep or some goat that were attacked by wolves. So if you don't have new information, you should be consistent with your message, okay? This is quite important, because if you're changing your message constantly, people will be suspicious, like, are you hiding something? So we should level our speech so people can understand it, okay? Of course, we should not be aggressive if people are aggressive to us, but most definitely we should not make them feel dumb. So like, we should not talk to them like they are little kids that don't know anything. Of course, we need to understand what are their type of knowledge and talk accordingly, but just again, being persistent with the message. And most of all, do not lie, okay? If you lie, they will find out. For example, we know that wolves were not being reintroduced in Europe, right? They were reintroduced in the US, for example, but not in Europe. So if, for example, let's make the case that wolves were actually reintroduced in some part of Europe, or for example, I'm from Portugal and wolves, this is not true, but let's say if it was, wolves were reintroduced in Portugal. And if I keep hiding this from them and lying and say, no, they will find out if that was the truth. Okay, so we should not lie, because if we lie and they know sooner or later, then the relationship will break and tear apart. Okay, and it will not be possible to restore it, for sure. So do not say they are saying wrong statements. So this is about myths. And one that I listen a lot is that wolves are being released in the wild constantly. 30 wolves, 20 wolves, almost every year. And what I say to them, I don't say, look, you're wrong, and that's it. No, I'm saying, look, if we were releasing 30 wolves or 10 wolves in these mountains, just behind your village, don't you think there would be more wolves around? Many more. And if you see one wolf and you're saying that it's causing so many damages, what do you think 30 wolves will do? And you make them think. For example, in Portugal, it's quite interesting. They always say that we are releasing wolves in the autumn. And if you think a little bit about the reproduction cycle of wolves, usually in the autumn is when the cubs start to leave and roam around with the adults. And it's normal if you think about it. So if you have one pack that reproduced and they had 2 pups that survived, in the autumn, people will maybe start seeing, instead of 2 wolves, they will see 4. And this is what you say, what we should say to people. Look, we have wolves here. We know that, you know that. We know that we have 2 wolves, probably a pair. They reproduced, okay? If they reproduce and the cubs survived, it's normal that from 2 wolves, you start to see 4. And imagine that in next year, they can reproduce again. And instead of having 2 pups, they'll have 3 or 4, and those 3 or 4 might survive, might not survive forever, but for that first year, until the first year, they might survive. And in the autumn, instead of 4, you can see 8 wolves. So we are not releasing wolves. They are just doing what is natural for them. They are reproducing, and that's the natural part. And so we are not doing anything about it. So it's about showing them the true story and not saying, look, you're lying, and that's it. So let's make just a quick resume about this building a relationship, which I think it's important. Let me see the message. Oh, okay. So listen is the most important aspect when dealing with people. We all agreed with this, right? So maintaining the connection to build the trust, it's essential. People already feel that they are forgotten. They live in remote areas, and they don't like to be forgotten, right? Nobody likes it. So if we maintain the connection, the trust will be built, and we will build a nice relationship. So, and then be persistent with the message without attacking their knowledge. But the most important is be persistent with the message, okay? So these are the 3 main aspects I believe I used in the field when dealing with people, and this is what I do. So I try to build a relationship. It's impossible to build a relationship with everyone, but if you build a relationship with several people from several places, and you know that they talk with each other, it's quite important. If you are persistent with your message, one will not say, oh, he told me that, and the other one, oh, no, he told me the opposite. No, they will all say, oh, yes, he told me that also. Oh, yes, he told me that also. So we should be persistent. And I think what can go wrong, right? it seems easy. Okay, we have these three points and everything will go well. Well, it will not. Particularly when this happens, okay? We have damages and this is hard times. But for me, I'm seeing more and more often damage events as opportunities, okay? When I know about a damage, I always say, if I don't have the contact of the person, I ask, please, can you give my contact to them and they can call me so I can help them any way I will find possible. So when damage occurs, it's important to try to contact the owners. If you don't know the person, if you don't know the person, it's one more person which you can use to build a relationship and gain to our side, let's say. And when we can reach the owner, we should let them talk about what they are feeling. They will be angry. They will say bad things. Of course, they will not be in the best mood to talk with us. But I believe we should let them talk. It's important. Otherwise, they will compress this anger and this rage, and they can do worse things, right? So then by listening, we should present ourselves as willing to help. So do you need help to make the damage report? Do you need help to find someone to deal with the carcass? Have you contacted the authorities? Do you need help to try to get the compensation? Anything. So it's important for us to be willing to help with what we can. We can say, look, I don't have direct contacts to anyone, but if you cannot do this, please let me help you. For example, I had one person that talked in a coffee shop about that she had a attack on their goats. So the wolves killed one of the goats, and the guy from the coffee shop, he had my number and said, look, try to call this guy, he might help you. And she called me and said, look, 2 days ago I had attack on my goats, and the wolf killed one of the goats. And I said, okay, do you need any help? And she said, oh, I went to the place where she fill up the forms for the subsidies, and they say, oh, that was dog. Don't worry, don't do anything about it. And I said, no, look, wolves are around. It might be wolves. If you fill up the form for the damage report. And she said no. And I said, okay, I can help you. I can do that. And the damage inspectors will come in 2-3 days maximum to see the carcass and to fill up the report, their own report, and then to apply for compensation. And she said, okay, look, I don't want to have the carcass here for 2 or 3 more days. So I will not do anything this time. And I said, okay, are you sure about it? Yes. If it happens another time, I will call you immediately and you can help me with that. And I said, okay, so please do that. And I stay with their number, and we agree that next time, probably at the end of this month, I will call her again and we will meet in person just to know each other and see. I will go to the place, talk a little bit, know how she's managing the livestock, and try to help. Please don't do this. Keep your livestock safe at night. Or why don't you get a livestock guardian dog? You can have it for free. You just need to wait for the pups to be born, and then you'll have a dog with your goats and with your sheep, and your livestock will better protected. So that is what I will do next. But first, we should present ourselves willing to help. It's what I did. And when people really fill up the damage report form, we should keep track of the situation, maintain the connection, call and say, look, how are things going? Did you already receive the compensation? Did the damage inspector went there already or not? So it's, and then of course it's what I was saying, give suggestions for possible changes, but this should be really at the one of the last things, right? So after you keep track of the situation, you can say, okay, look, why don't you find a livestock guardian dog for you? Why don't you fence better the area? So give these suggestions, listen to their answers and say, oh, look, I don't have the money. And you say, okay, look, you can go and talk to the place where you fill up the forms for the subsidies, and they will give you options so you can get money for fences, for example, or I will give you the contact for you to have a livestock guardian dog. And this is important. But one of the first, just let them talk, keep track of the situation, and when everything is calmed down, you can give the suggestions. And one thing that I believe it's really, really important, it's never give a definitive answer to the question, was this wolf? You can say maybe, you can say almost for sure. You should never say never, okay? People don't like to say, no, this was not wolf for sure. Because first, sometimes we cannot really be sure. Wolves can appear in places where we are not expecting it. And second, depending on the behavior of the wolf, sometimes the damage might not be a normal wolf damage, right? Instead of going for the throat, you can go for the back just because the animals were running away and it was in the middle of the village. The wolf was not that comfortable and was just hungry, and it just goes and it goes for the back, grabs the animal, and that's it. So we need to be careful, and we should never give a definitive answer. And most of all, you should never say, no, this was not a wolf. Even if you're almost 100% sure, there is always 1% doubt that you should have. So never a definitive answer. So even on these damage events, we shouldn't, I believe, and I don't, I do it like this, I never forget the important steps of the relationship, right? It's listening. This is the first thing, right? Maintain the connection, call, see how things are going, and then be persistent. If you say first to people, imagine you met this owner 3 months ago, and you said to him, look, okay, you're doing great, you're not having damages, but I believe your livestock will be better protected if you have a livestock guardian dog. Then after 3 months, for example, he's really angry when you call him, and he's saying, look, I had a damage, I hate wolves, why don't you do something about it? And he said, look, okay, did you receive the compensation, anything like that? And then you say, oh, remember about the livestock guardian dogs I talked to you? Why don't you do it? Next time maybe it will not happen. You can go have lunch and leave the livestock in the fenced area with the livestock guardian dog, and maybe the damage will not occur. So this is really important, okay? And when we do this, sometimes we will see our hard work paying off. I don't know if you can see here in the image. So here on the left, there are these two white balls. There is a wolf here. This is not a wolf. These are wind farms, okay? But this is a wolf here. This is a male, and this is a female. And if you see, there is some, it is a reproducing females. So it's what gives us a boost of energy when we see that reproduction is occurring even in places where, for example, here, this is in Portugal, this is from pictures from this month, and this is the only pair in the area, okay? And when we seeing this, and when we are working areas with huge level of conflicts, and animals are being persecuted really hard, it's really a boost of energy when we see this. And also when, and I will shut up, and if you can put the sound in the maximum, let's hear this, I hope. Okay, thank you all for your time. Now I would like to hear from you, all the questions, all the comments, and we can discuss everything. I'm learning also, and of course, I want to hear also your experience and try to help if I can, and have a nice discussion.
Thank you very much, Dario. And we did have a good few questions coming. So if you could stop sharing your screen, Dario, so we can just see your face clearer.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay.
Perfect. I guess one of the questions that a few people have thought about is about if you don't speak the native language. Obviously you are Portuguese and this project was in Portugal, but if you're doing it in elsewhere, if you've had experience with it, if there are any kind of tips for overcoming those barriers?
Well, I'm doing my PhD in Croatia, of course, and it helps trying know a little bit the language, but usually we are not in a project alone, of course. And if we can have someone local, it will be important to make the translation. Or the most important thing, I believe, it's trying to talk the language, okay? Even if we are not perfect with it, I believe we should try it. I have this experience in Croatia. So my Croatian, it's not perfect, not at all. I know just some words, I know the basics, and I try to talk to people and try to, when I see them, say hi, just asking if they see wolves or not, if they add damages or not, and then just try to know what is the situation. And just by talking with them, they start liking us a little bit more. And if in the beginning they are aggressive, with time they start to know us and they say, okay, these guys are here, are always asking how things are going, and people really like that. I had one experience that I was putting fuel in the car in some village away from where we were working. We were trapping wolves, but I was putting gas in some kilometers away, and a guy just came, oh, come here. And I went there, and we had a really hard conversation. He could almost not understand me, and I could almost not understanding him, but we at this small conversation, and he showed me some damages, and I asked if he had a dog, and he said he was working on it. So this was important. I asked him, I saw him a few months later, and he showed me the dog. So but in the first time I didn't know him, and he said, "Oh, come here," because the car was known, and he said, "Oh, you work with wolves, so come here." And he showed me the dead sheep, and he said how many wolves were there, and I asked if he had the dog and everything, and then this relationship was starting to be built. So of course my objective now is to improve my creation, so the conversation will be better and we can talk a little bit more. This is what I believe is the most important thing, is even if it's hard, we should try to do it. And for me, for a Portuguese guy, it's quite hard to learn Croatian. So, and I believe it's the same for all of us when we go to a different country with no connection between languages at all. It's important. It's hard, but we should make the effort.
Thank you. Well, I guess with your project in Croatia, it's still ongoing, but with the one you did in Portugal, how long do you think it took you to really build a trusting relationship where both parties really trust each other?
Well, it depends on the people. I have some that after 5 years of working, it's still hard. And I have one case that there is this cattle owner, and we were doing great in the first year. It was really great, a nice relationship, and then there was damage on the goats, and he was completely hungry, and he avoided me for some time. We always meet every month when I go to the field to do field work, but during that time after, I didn't see him, and then I called him, and he said, "Oh, my wolves are here, you are releasing wolves." And I said, "No, look, we had confirmation of reproduction, and how was the cow?" And say, "Oh, it was an old cow." And say, "Okay, is it possible that because it was old, wolves could separated them from the herd and it was easy?" And say, "Oh yes, maybe, and it was really bad weather." And say, "Okay, maybe that is the cause. Maybe next time when it's this bad weather, you should try to collect the cattle earlier, so you will not have problems." And we started to talk again, and now, for example, when wolves are appearing there again, like the photo that I showed is from the pair in this wind farm where the cattle is, and wolves are showing up, and I told him, "Look, wolves are around, you should be careful." And he said, "Oh yes, I have some young ones that I wanted to release, but I did not yet because I know that they are." And I said, "Good, you're doing great. Maybe try to keep them a little bit more inside, or try to do a soft release. So put them first around the house, try them not to go up there, and especially not to stay overnight." And he said, "Oh yes, I will do it." So it's I have this case, but I have another one that is still not willing to make changes and is constantly having problems. He had a fence that is not well placed, full of holes. Wolves can reach from everywhere, and is having damages every year, more than once per year. And I thought, "Look, you should find a dog. I believe it will help you a lot. And after, please, there are subsidies for you to make your fence properly. So do it. I can give you the forms. You will fill up the forms." And he said, "Oh no, I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to." And so we have this, and we just need to keep trying and trying and trying. And in Portugal, we have another problem: is compensation are really late, and so people.
Where do they come from? Where do they come from? The compensation? Who pays for it?
From the state.
Okay.
And so it's by law it should be 60 days, but it's in some cases I have now for 3 or 4 years. So it's really delayed, and this is not helping us in the field working, right? But we should, what I do is, okay, let me call and see what is going on. And I try and I tell them, look, it's stuck on this institution and I cannot do much about it. I will keep calling them every month to see and pressure them and saying that you're hungry about it, and this should move quite faster. And yeah, it's when he receives the money, maybe the things will get better. But until there, it's tricky. But some of them accept better than others. So it's a matter of personalities also. We are dealing with people, right?
So you said the compensation comes from the state. So I guess, did you have to, prior to starting any of these projects, do you have to get all the permissions from governments? What if there are kind of areas where you do want to introduce wolves, other predators, where there is no regulation? How do you think you should approach it?
Well, we should first inform people. If they're, so for example, in Portugal, it's forbidden to release wolves. They will not accept it anyway. And reintroductions did not take place, of wolves did not take place in Europe, right? So no wolf reintroduction in Europe. And in places where there is regulation, for example, we did reintroduction with roe deer to increase the wild prey availability. And first we talked to people to know what was the level of acceptance of this, and also to listen what are their thoughts, are these good or not. And if we see that there is a small portion of the population that say, okay, this might be good because of that, we should explore that aspect. And because sometimes people will accept it, but they need to be shown why are these animals important. In Portugal now we are having the problem with wild boars. It's no control. We have like estimated around 300,000 wild boars in Portugal. It's really a lot. And we are saying, I always say to people, look, if you protect your livestock well, with the amount of wild boar there is, and now also with roe deer, wolves will have two options. Or they go for the wild prey that is available, or they will perish, and this will be the natural consequences, right? But the most important thing is you should protect well your livestock, and then everything will occur. And if wolves start to go for wild boars, you'll have an advantage, because wild boars will not be around the village because wolves are around, and your fields will be protected of wild boars. So, for example, if you want to do reintroduction of a large carnivore in areas where ungulates are giving problems to people, try to show them what are the benefits, but the benefits are attached to something. In this case, the benefits of having wolves only works if people protect their livestock. If they don't protect their livestock, wolves will go for livestock and have two problems instead of one, right? And this is the tricky thing, I believe.
I think just time-wise, there are a few more questions, but I will share them with Dario after the workshop, and we'll add it to the recording, which will be online kind of a few weeks after today, and we'll just add it as a comment, so you'll have your questions answered. But for today, I'd just like to to share just a few more closing slides. Yes, so yes, thank you. That brings today's AER Live to a close. Thanks to everyone and Dario for joining us for today. We will take a short summer break before returning in September, so please watch out for announcements on our return via the newsletter and our social media. In the meantime, we are delighted to share that registration for the BES annual meeting is now open. This year's conference will be held in Belfast, and we urge everyone to grab the cheaper early bird tickets, which are available for either the in-person or virtual event while you can. We did sell out very quickly last year, so I do encourage everyone to get on this. And as the largest ecological conference in Europe, the BES annual meeting is certainly the highlight for many colleges around the world to learn, to network, but also to have a lot of fun. So please visit the BES website for more information. And a final thanks to today's ALI sponsor, Wildlife Acoustics. In addition to creating bioacoustic research tools, they offer free online resources for professionals, including product training, webinars, and more. You can browse their monthly offerings at wildlifeacoustics.com/resources. Thanks again to everyone for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see many of you again at our next AL Live. We'll leave you for a few more seconds on this lovely soundscape, but yes, goodbye. Thank you, everyone.